How we doing? Good. Well, obviously I was told today about the passing of Jim Cotter, so obviously a lot of thoughts and prayers go to his family. Bret Moore also shared with me his last tweet about, thank goodness he loves football. That was something that's been pretty cool. Obviously, I've just got to know him mainly through Zoom, but a guy that really seemed like he enjoyed every day and represents everything that you want from your guys' profession, but also what we love working with. So thoughts and prayers go out to his family. With that also being said, just kind of along those lines, thoughts to all the people affected by the hurricane going on right now. I know it really hasn't affected our team, but I know Coach has some players affected on his roster with the UTSA. So continue to think of people in that region and all that goes in affected to that. Have a very tough challenge for us, what we got on Saturday. A little bit about last week, just kind of clean up from that. Obviously had a lot of guys get injured during the course of it. Don't really know the status. BP, has a injury to his left shoulder. All the tests came back, anything from a long-standing injury looked negative at this point. So really it's just about his recovery. And again, it's on his left shoulder, his non-throwing arm. So really just a matter of how fast he recovers from that. Not ruling him out of this week's game, but don't really feel that he may be in that role at this point. As far as his return, it kind of just depends a lot more after the next probably 5 to 6 days to see where he's at. CJ Hart just getting through some more testing, actually waiting on some results as we speak here today. But a guy that was very productive. Both those guys were doing some good things, obviously, up until their injury. CJ obviously was named the Defensive Player of the Week. Not a lot of competition this week for the Big Ten Players of the Week, but a guy that definitely showed well in his first opportunity. He's been impressive since he got here. Our transfer portal guys, right? So between CJ Hart, Eddie Smith, Eric Prather Hudson, a lot of guys that were new to our program did some good things, and CJ probably led the wave in that regard. So a couple guys we might get back, Jafar Armstrong, but Marquez Beeson for sure will start practice tomorrow. So we'll see where Beast is at. Really after Tuesday. Tuesday he'll kind of work as a look team guy and see where he goes for the week. But a guy that we're excited to get back into the mix, and really that's about it for us as we status quo. Recognize a couple guys, so there's always outside awards and everything goes into it, but we recognize some MVPs as a staff. Whenever we have success, we'll give MVPs. So offensively, 3 guys up front: Kramer, and then on the edges, Isaiah Williams to play his first game as a wide receiver was awesome. Kramer actually had 19 knockdowns as an offensive lineman, which is the most I've ever seen in my coaching career. And then Art gave him the MVP, just the way he came in, rallied the troops, the way he performed, his command, his presence. Everything was pretty impressive in that regards. Defensively, Johnny Newton up front, CJ in the middle, and in the back end, I thought Sidney Brown played really, really well from the first snap to the last, everywhere in between. Special teams, Blake Hayes, and then also Kirby Joseph did a really nice job for us in a variety of different looks from a look team, right? So the guys that were simulating and emulating Nebraska on the defense side of the ball, Deion Pate. Offensively, Josh McCray, and then on special teams, Dylan Rosiak and Michael Manning. Those guys did a really nice job of giving us a look. So we'll put that game behind us and jump to what's in front of us. I think the tremendous challenge that we have now is UTSA is a team, obviously, that we're not very familiar with, haven't played. A group of guys that mirrors a lot of what we are from a roster standpoint. I think there'll be 77 seniors between their 30-plus seniors and ours. There'll be 77 seniors on the field Saturday that will be out there competing. So those guys have made a commitment, just like our guys did, to come back and do this, several of them over again. A very, very talented group from a year ago. They were a team, obviously, that won 7 games and were right in the middle of a lot of other ones that could have gone any way. So offensively, very talented. I know they played 4 different quarterbacks, I believe, last year, but they got a very talented quarterback, a lefty that can throw the ball and run the ball. They got a very talented running back. Offensive line are big people that can move very, very well. Got a group of tight ends and a grad transfer tight end that have played a lot of football. Defensively, they got all 11 guys back. Anytime you start 11 starters is usually a good thing. So although they've had some transition with the coordinator title, it was guys that they promoted from within. So a lot of carryover and just excited for our guys to see how they get into the flow of things now, right? I don't care, no matter who we're playing, obviously a very talented UTSA team, but the part that we try to train into our guys, it's not what they do, it's what we do. We have to do our preparation and do the things we ask our guys to do. So it'll be really fun to be with our guys this week. We put the Nebraska game behind us yesterday, jumped into UTSA prep at the end of the day yesterday. Today players had a day off, and we'll jump in tomorrow morning and hit the ground running with our UTSA prep. So with that, open it up for questions.
Coach, one thing the fans certainly noticed was the lack of unforced errors and negative plays. What did you see from the film, and can you talk to how you kind of instilled that in practice?
Yeah, great question. So, since we got here, I really stressed three things that make you lose games: penalties, mental errors, and turnovers. And they heard me say that in our first meeting to where we were Friday night before the game started, right? One of the things that I learned through a couple previous stops was, players love to watch other players, right? Good, bad, and different. And so one of the advantages that we had before this game this past weekend was there was 2 weeks of preseason games going into the weekend of all the NFL teams. So I'd taken all of those 2 weeks of preseason games and pulled out different miscues, offense, defense, special teams that were penalties, unforced errors, turnovers, the simple thing of a center QB exchange, a center running back exchange, a drop the ball with nobody touching it but the player that had it. So I tried to show those and make them understand, hey, this is the highest level possible, and these guys make mistakes. You have to learn through others. So I really stressed before we could win the game, we had to stop from losing it, right? And that is something we just talk about nonstop in our program. We also talk about how you win games, right? Because you can't just sit around and wait for someone to drop and lose the game for them, right? You got to be able to win them. So I was happy with the way they played. There were a lot of things we had to clean up. One of the things that I probably shocked them again with last night, I think a lot of times people will think when you watch film, you review only your plays. Well, I reviewed Nebraska plays that, I really wanted to show to our guys that we needed to learn from as well. So it's always trying to further educate our guys on how we got to play the game.
Bret, what's the key in coming off the big win for you guys and then turning to the next week? Like, what is the key to success?
The question is, what's it to turn it from a big win? And I respect the question, but there aren't any wins or losses that have asterisks, right? Every win's a win, every loss is a loss. We have to take it for what it's worth. We have a little bit of a mantra to stack days, right? And we happened to obviously win this game this past weekend, but our preparation need to remain the same. If we didn't take advantage of Sunday, it really didn't matter what Monday looked like. We wouldn't have maximized Sunday. So we just kind of have the mantra that every day is going to be what it is. Keep working. I do like our mentality, the guys. I read and read all their comments, right? And our guys said a lot of positive things on Saturday after the game, but what I want them to understand is this is just one day in a journey of 12 given Saturdays that one Friday, right? One Friday and 11 Saturdays that we're given on the schedule, and then what we do with them may give us an opportunity to do more. But if they get too big in the moment or too big of reflection on what just happened, then tomorrow I'll slap them in the face.
Right on the status of Chase Brown, I thought you said he was limited after the game.
Yeah. No, Chase was a guy that going into the game was fully cleared. He actually aggravated an injury that shouldn't be long to recover, but he definitely we didn't want to put him in harm's way in the latter third and fourth quarter on Saturday, but he should be fully accessible and ready to roll on Saturday.
Bret, on the deuce man play, is that just going back to your theory of optimizing your roster?
It is. It really is. It was. Saturday was just a whirlwind after the game, and between recruits here and different media obligations, and had some family in town, had my parents in town, and late Saturday had a chance to go to social media, and I just typed in Deuce Spann, just wanted to see if they had gotten any play, because I knew he had a big play in that moment for him, and I saw that someone had referenced that, a quarterback that had never played at Illinois through to a quarterback that no one knew was at wide receiver, and the result was 6 inches away from a touchdown. And it kind of just summed up what I really believe in is, it's always about the team, right? Put the team first is one of our. It's the number 4 goal walking in the door, and it's the number 1 team goal walking out the door. And as a head coach, I've told our guys repeatedly, if I have a decision that's being made about you, it's only for one reason. I want to put the team first. And I've had several conversations with Deuce about the wide receiver position, and he kind of gravitated towards it, and we knew he was going to have a limited number of plays. I told him on Wednesday or Thursday, I said, when that first play comes, there's a very good chance that you're going to score. Like I literally said, I think you'll be surprised at the success you're going to have. And I called him on Sunday and said, hey, I'm sorry I was 6 inches off, because he just truly has some special abilities. He is a guy that I'm very excited to see where this thing can go.
Along those lines, fans have been waiting for Isaiah Williams and look forward to breakout. Big time recruits being gathered. What did you see from those two guys?
Isaiah first, I saw things in him that I'd seen, all through fall camp. Very energetic, great athleticism, pretty good football awareness. Began to see some of that in the open field, right, when he had the ball in his hands. Will be an accomplished receiver, but a guy that I think you, from a preparation standpoint, always got to be conscious of where he is. And then Luke Ford, really has, I think, begun to evolve into a complete tight end. Got a long ways to go, but a really fun young man to be around. Him and DJ Barker both. I know DJ didn't get to touch the ball, but DJ had 5 knockdowns and did some things in the blocking game that really made a huge statement to me, and I will get him more ingrained into our overall game program. But, I'm excited about some of these guys that are finding success.
You mentioned Saturday that you weren't very surprised with how well Art handled, kind of having to go in there on the fly, but just to know you got another quarterback that can do that and that has had some success now, what's the comfort level as a coach?
Yeah, Art's just been impressive ever since I've come, in contact with him. From my first phone call, I remember I got off that phone call and I'm like, man, that's a mature dude there, right? Like whatever I know that will be the case. And then the people I research with, the people I talk to from his high school days to his college days, Andy Boo had been with him at Rutgers, had competed against him when he was at Maryland, so he'd kind of known a lot about him. And then he's a guy that was just impressive once he got here. So I wasn't going to be surprised at all if Art was put in the moment about how he handled the moment. I didn't know how he was going to play, but I knew the handling of it wouldn't be an issue. And his demeanor, he's so serious and but yet also has a good light to him. And we have, the good thing at that position, BP had played a lot, Art had played a lot. Ryan Johnson, who's another quarterback, even though you guys don't know a lot about him, he's played a lot of college football, even though it hasn't been maybe at the Big Ten level. You got to keep in mind Isaiah Williams has already played a lot of football at a Big Ten level as a quarterback. So there's a lot of guys already in our system that have the ability to play quarterback and have done it so already.
What you said on Saturday, he had, I think, 3 or 4 PBUs and a couple picks too. That kind of felt their thing.
Spoon's I think just scratching the surface of how good he can be. He's done a lot of really good things physically since we've been here. He's put on a little bit of weight. We used to, get knocked around by a strong breeze, right? So like he's actually put some frame behind that, and very, very good football IQ. He's fun to be around. Like the best corners I've ever been around are those kind of guys, right? That magnetic personality. Jumped on a little out route there to the boundary. Kind of explained to him, hey, you got to be ready for the out and up next time. But he gets football and he understands it, and I just couldn't be more excited for someone on the beginning of their career here.
Why is it that personality works well with some of the best corners you come around?
Corners got to have short memories, right? They have to. If you get beat on a play, or if you get give up a touchdown or whatever it is, if you dwell on that play, you'll never be able to maximize the next one. And it's been my experience that the best corners have that confidence. They know even though they may have just got one, I'm just going to get the next one, right? And that's definitely what Spoon is.
So there were times it seemed like the momentum could have swung the other way, maybe when Brandon got hurt or fumble. What do you think about the way that you guys responded and kind of stalled?
So the thing that I shared with them, the last thing we watched together on film Friday night was a first quarter and fourth quarter edit of the Nebraska versus Iowa game last year. And at the end of the first quarter, it had kind of gone back and forth a little bit. I showed them the field position game, showed some change of momentum, showed some big plays. But the end of the first quarter, I believe, was 10-0, right? And then I showed the first play of the fourth quarter, and it was 20-20. And the first play of the fourth quarter was Iowa kicking field goal. So I took it from the end of the first, and I said, hey, then a lot of football was played for 2 quarters, and we're coming back at the beginning of the fourth quarter, and it's a field goal opportunity literally coming out of the break for Iowa to go up 23-20, and that game was a very tight game down to the end. And I just explained to them all that football we watched, it really got down to the end of game 2-minute scenario, right? So like literally when that moment came up, right, Iowa had to make a stand at the end of that game to win that game. And I think our guys sitting there on Saturday, a couple of them made reference after game, they're like, hey, we just watched this, right? Like we know the makeup of what we got to go out and do. Now I can't promise the results, but they had been made aware, and I liked the responses from our guys. Like they knew the moment they were walking into, and kind of almost the calls and the situation. And that's the part that's been fun about this group is they just have been a complete sponge of what we've been trying to feed them.
Based on Scott Frost's post-game comments, the element of surprise worked for you for the under the schemes. Now you're on tape. How does that change what you guys are doing as coaches?
I think the element of surprise is always good, right? Like, I mean, I think I always hit our coaches and I tell our players, right? We're in the information gathering, not the information giving. And I know you guys as media people don't love that, all right? But that's why I'm so entertaining for you folks, right? Like, you guys were mad when you didn't get to see things either. But I think the part that from a head coach's point of view is like, to me, the parts I really enjoy about coaching as you get deeper into the season, you see more film and you see not just how people are running schemes, and what the schemes are, but how people are running them, right? So a 3 technique in Nebraska's system is going to be different than a 3 technique in our system. Even though the outside world sees them as a D-tackle 3 technique, they play differently based on how they're coached or what the scheme allows them to do. So, we do have one film down on us. We have no film on UTSA, but they're a staff that had been 1 year with them. Coach Traylor that has been an incredibly gifted coach throughout his whole career, right? It was a high school coach. I think he was 4-time Texas High School Coach of the Year. I know quite a few people that knew him during his Arkansas stint and we talked about who he is, what he represents, and the way he coaches, and you can see why he had such an immediate impact on his team and his roster last year, the way they play. Now you got seniors coming back. You got people. He just stands for, it looks like, all the right things from the outside world. So we have a tremendous challenge because I know they'll be very well coached. I watched his presser. He obviously knows our personnel very, very well, offense, defense, special teams. So it's going to be a very formidable challenge and a tremendous opportunity for us to prep really well.
Bret, can you give us an update on Brian Hightower? Is that an injury, and is there optimism that he can be?
Yeah, I thought we talked about High. High will be out for a while, but it was nothing structurally that is going to cancel the season. When that first happened, there was concern on my behalf that was going to be a season ending. But I would guess, again, a little bit depends on his recovery. It's a soft tissue injury that needs time to heal. But even like last week, I saw him yesterday, but the difference between him last Thursday between that and the Monday was night and day. So he's definitely moving in the right direction.
But is there a challenge when you got so much going into that first game, the second game now coming back into it and trying to get that same build-up?
You mean just like the energy from the game, or?
Yeah, just you put so much into Nebraska and then coming back the second week where you try and really get into a rhythm.
Yeah. Boy, I hope. I mean, this is my 13th year as a head coach. I think I put the same thing into every game. I think, again, the outside world's like, oh, you really get up for Nebraska. It's a divisional opponent. If we flip these two, I would have prepped the same way for UTSA as I did for Nebraska, and I'm going to prep the same for UTSA this week if it was Nebraska in week 2. Like, that's just not how I'm wired, and that's not how I would allow people to be wired any other way in our building, right? The Smith Center respects our opponents every way, every day. We come to work the same approach, same mentality. I think the way the outside world views how we do or don't prepare is just the world we're in today, right? Like, kids really respect. I know Owen Carney, I got a meeting with him tonight at 8 p.m. He's just as excited to come in and watch film tonight at 8 p.m. about UTSA as he was at 8 p.m. last Monday for Nebraska. That's just kind of how he's wired.
It's the second weekend in a row that you said you have an 8 p.m. meeting with Owen Carney. What is it about the way that he goes about things that he does?
Well, the 8 p.m. is my choice because it's the only time I have free. Today is a player day off. If they want to come in, he's always asking me, Coach, can we meet? He's just a sponge. He's a fun kid. He's absolutely awesome. So like that's the part that I think is really fun for me is to watch our guys. I guess it was last Thursday. I tried to let the coaches get out at a decent hour, family night, to get out of here, and it was later in the evening, 7:30 or so, when I was walking down the back hallway, and I heard some people talking, and it was coming out of DB room. And I walk in and I have a player led. There's I don't know how many DBs are in that room watching film. They're just the more we can get those guys to keep doing what they're doing. They're buying in, they're selling, they're taking, and it's not just one or two guys. I think it's universally across the board.
At the beginning of training camp, you talked about not only watching players, but watching how coaches coach. Now you had one game under your belt with all those coaches. How did you like the interaction between the coaching staff?
Yeah, for us as a head coach, we always review, right? Like coaches have to have thick skin. One of the things we constantly try to preach is if today happens, tomorrow's got to be better, right? So had a lot of meetings yesterday and today extensively with the offensive, defensive, and special teams, and little of it was about X's and O's, right? We're going to cross some passes we're going to talk about, but a lot of it was, how a play was communicated, how the call was made, how it was executed. We were pretty clean penalty-wise, but there were some things that we needed to clean up to make sure they don't become an issue. My job as a head coach, right, is to make sure everybody's efficiently operating. I want to make Ryan Walters successful as I possibly can before the ball is ever played, right? Same thing with Tony Peterson, same thing with Ben Miller and special teams. I thought it was really, a big moment when Blake Hayes basically knew the plan before the game, but then every time he took the field, he knew what he was going to be asked to do before he was asked to do it, and it just allows him to get out there and visualize it and make some good things happen.
Going back to Deuce, Isaiah called him Big Play Deuce after the game.
Yeah.
What do you think about that nickname, and how do you think a guy like Isaiah can help him make that transition, just knowing that they've kind of come from the same position to a new position?
Twofold, right? Great question. Big Play Deuce. I'll call him whatever he wants to be as long as he's making big plays. Hope it's not like jumbo shrimp, right? It's not an oxymoron. Hopefully Big Play Deuce sticks. But I would say, the thing that jumps out to me about Isaiah, like when Isaiah was banged up for about 7 to 8 days, I was kind of engaged with Skelly, or I was watching one-on-ones. There's multiple things going on, and I think Isaiah realized I'm into practice, right? I'm watching different things, and he comes over and he's just kind of standing next to me, and he goes, "Can I grab Deuce?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what do you mean? You grab Deuce?" I thought he was talking about because the quarterbacks needed. Tony was working with some quarterbacks over Skelly. We had another drill going, so I thought we were short a quarterback. And no, he was saying, "Can I grab Deuce? Can I go grab Deuce to play wide receiver during one-on-ones?" Right? So, it was just kind of intriguing to me. Like, here's a guy that has already been down this rodeo once, right? And he knows that he can see what Deuce can bring. And so he had a moment in practice there where I hadn't figured it out as a head coach that, we could come over and get Deuce to do it, because he knew I had been talking to him about, hey, anything you could tell him or relay with him. So that was a big aha moment for me as a coach, because now I know I have players that think like me, and that was really, really cool. But I think Deuce, that's why I was always so excited for him. His attitude, his energy, his personality, his demeanor. The kids love him. Like when he made that play, literally that play was under review, right? And obviously it's a big play in the game, and I'm obviously want to win the game. But in that moment, I was so intensely wired into how this ruling was going to come out, because I knew that it could change the outlook of him, right? One of the things we always talk about, I want you to be the best you, right? I literally think the best you that Deuce Spann could be as a wide receiver. And I was just praying, because that was his first play ever at wide receiver, and to know that it was 6 inches away from a huge touchdown speaks volumes about where he can go, and that's probably what I was excited more than anything.
Coach, I wanted to ask about your decision making. The play where Casey Washington was just short and they reviewed it, and it was first down. It looked like you were going to punt there, and then also the fourth and short where you pushed them back, made them do third and 11 instead of fourth and short. What goes through your mind in those decisions? Endless
repetitions of my mind of what we're going to do. When it was real short on the play we were talking about, Casey Washington, there were some thoughts in my mind that I had evolved to and knew what I was going to do in that moment based on where the ball was on the field. It wasn't going to be just made up. And then when the play you're talking about, it was 4th and 6 inches, they were down by multiple scores, and I'm thinking, if I give them this opportunity, they're going to go for it. I know defensively I probably would have been in the mode of let's not give up a big one, and so that's when I pushed it back. I felt much better with a third and really, really long, and then I think we actually sacked him after that play, which pushed it back even further. So that's probably the part that Illinois is getting better now as a coach that's a little bit more ingrained in the moment. Even like when I work with Tony, like I don't just yell out, "Hey, go for it on fourth down." They usually know that on second or third down where we're at. Joe, one?
Yeah, I was wondering, how does having a punter like Blake Hayes affect the way you coach?
Well, if I had Blake Hayes my whole career, I probably wouldn't have gray hair. He actually is he gets it. Like he's Australian born, and obviously, the football game came to him a little bit later in life, but he's so aware of football. Like he understands it, he gets it. A lot of times you'll see him out on the field during a break, and he's out there visualizing, getting a feel for the wind. I think one of the things that's really jumped out since I came here with both him and James McCourt is I just really engage them in the game plan and the decisions that we're going to make and let them know why we're doing certain things and how we're going to punt, how we're going to kick, when we're going to kick a certain way. And that's probably allowed them hopefully to play at a high level and hopefully even higher in the future. Thank you. Yep. Thank you.